Okay. So sorry for the gap that we had. Actually, yeah, one girl is also. Yes. Mrinalini, right? Yeah. She's your classmate, right, Shakti? Both of your classmates.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
She's my classmate. Now I'm giving the name of her.
Okay. Fine. So, welcome, Mrinalini. Hope you can listen to the audio as well as hope you can see me, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So actually, we have done, a couple of classes so far, and you can contact Dure and he'll send you all the links, and it will be slightly tedious for you to listen to all the classes so far. Actually, I suggest that spare some time and listen to the previous classes so that you will get a continuation, because we are going in an order. We have started from the Greco-Roman period and now we are in the 16th century. Okay. And now specifically we are dealing with
Yes, ma'am.
Shakespeare. Yeah. So it is better, like we are almost covering the social, historical, cultural background of that period, as well as we try little best to connect it with the literary works of the writers of that time. So if you want to squeeze out the complete, then you have to listen from the beginning. And in the first one or two classes, we haven't provided this, PPT. So you have to listen carefully. And after that, you will have all these PPTs. So just listen to the class, simultaneously read the PPTs and make notes of your own. That will definitely be helpful. Okay. And
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, also one more thing is like you are free to give suggestions to me. Like if you want to change something or something regarding the speed, or if you need more clarification on some side, or if you don't want more clarification on some side. So in that cases, both of you can, give me some suggestions according to which we can make some changes. Okay, yeah. And all the classes will be recorded and you will be shared with the links so that later also you can listen to the classes. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we were dealing with Shakespeare and his works, and we have already done, many of his work, the histories. Histories was the content of the last class, I guess, and the dark comedies, the romantic comedies, the early comedies that he had, and so many, genres of Shakespeare have already been discussed. And today we are here with his great tragedies. Of course, we know which are the great tragedies of Shakespeare, and we'll see some, details and basics of these tragedies and how the techniques of Shakespearean tragedy, because Shakespearean tragedy itself is considered to be a genre, because there are some specific features associated with the Shakespearean tragedy, which is, away from, or which is slightly different from the Greek or classical tragedy. So we'll be discussing all these details. Actually, the great tragedies, we have already discussed many of his tragedies, like the early tragedies and some tragical works we have already discussed of Shakespeare. And here we are with the four great tragedies of Shakespeare's career, that is Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. You know why I have given this HOKM, Hockham in bracket, because this is a keyword with which you can remember the order of these four plays, because sometimes you may be given with questions like which is the first among the great tragedies of Shakespeare, then you have to write it's Hamlet. And which is the last one, that is of course Macbeth. Okay, so in this actually there are no so much of difference between the period of writing between these four works, but still this is how we divide it. Is like for an easy remembrance you can remember this thing, that is Hockham, Hokm, that is Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. It goes in that order. Okay. And this, we can of course say, the climax of Shakespeare's art. And we were discussing how immature he was in his writings in the beginning. And then he developed, the craftsmanship developed, and he developed his artistic style, his content, and everything. Everywhere you could see some kind of differences or changes, that is drastic changes you can see. And then so that kind of changes where that we were discussing that. And this is like the great tragedies come at the climax period of Shakespeare's artistic career. Okay, and Shakespeare himself is believed to have been an have been greatly burdened in spirit at this time, because I'm full of spirit. I don't know what to say. You can connect it with what Carson, the chess champion, told recently, because there is nothing motivating for me. Actually, that is not something, in my opinion, that is not something. He was not arrogant or something like that, because even the great artists or great people feel the same, a kind of distraction, a kind of demotivated period or something like that. And Shakespeare was himself was feeling that I am at the peak of my spirit. Okay, whatever he does during this time was really wonderful, beautiful, because all these plays, it is not necessary to become a success, all his plays should be success. It's not like that. The previous plays were not like that, but all these great tragedies which came continuously were keeping much in spirit, and all the plays were so super. And still we are discussing all these plays in different contexts. People are making analysis on different bases. Okay, so that is the importance, and profound psychological insight is there, and the powerful style. And then romantic tragedies. What Shakespeare has written are romantic tragedies, not classical tragedies. Actually, I'll tell you what the difference between romantic tragedies and classical tragedies. That means Shakespeare's tragedies are, of course, romantic, which do not conform to the classical conventions. We have already discussed the major features of a tragedy and all. And then you can say, like, when Aristotle describes about a tragedy, it should have this three unities: a middle, a beginning, a middle, and end. It should have this order. Then the three unities: unity of action, unity of time, and unity of place. All these things should be maintained. So many such rules are there. A single plot should be there. So these are the basic, necessities required by classical tragedy. But Shakespeare's tragedies are not like that. Okay, most of the tragedies are not at all confined to the three unities. And of course his plays have different plots, or almost all the plays have multiple plots, so things like that. That's why we call Shakespeare's tragedies to be romantic tragedies, not classical one, but the romantic one. Emphasizes the element of spectacle. That was what given with much importance in Shakespeare's plays, which is least important according to the classical rules and regulations. Spectacles, the six parts of a tragedy, right? So spectacle comes at last. It was not at all something very important. But in the case of Shakespeare, spectacle, how the audience view, okay, how it affects the audience, and the entity, how it can entertain and affect and make an impact on the audience. That is what something given with much importance in Shakespeare's works. And of course, he employed violence on stage in classical tragedies. You cannot see violence is something, uh, you know, spoken on stage. Okay, it was not at all enacted on stage, but in Shakespearean tragedies, you can see Hamlet. The end of Hamlet is like totally disastrous, full of fight, full of deaths and everything. So this kind of violence was employed on stage for dramatic effect, for spectacle. Okay, for dramatic effect, it was enacted on stage, and in Greek tragedies, it is only reported, not enacted. Then employs elements of comedy within tragedy. That is also cannot be seen in Greek tragedies or the classical tragedies. If this is a tragedy, it should be full of tragic episodes. Okay, no comedy should be included. But in the case of Shakespearean tragedies, you can see the inclusion of comedy is there. The characters like the clowns and fools, or some minor characters will be there to give some comical elements and all those things. So that is also something makes Shakespearean tragedies different from the classical one, and it makes it romantic. And it does not, of course, maintain the unities we have already discussed. So these are the reasons why we call Shakespeare's tragedies are romantic tragedies, not the classical tragedies. Then yeah. Okay. Features of tragedies. Let us just discuss features of this great tragedy specifically. Okay. First one is no imitation of the classical model. We have already discussed no imitation of the classical model. And then the chief conflict of the protagonist is with the aspects of social order. Okay, in Greek tragedy, they battle against the divine forces, but here it is with the social aspects. Protagonist is like confused with, or got hurt with some social elements, or something happening in and around the hero. That's why the person is in conflict, and that's why the person is protesting, that's why the person is reacting. But in Greek tragedies, mostly the battle is against the divine force. We have discussed Oedipus Rex, and in the case of Oedipus Rex, Oedipus is fighting against the destiny, because it is the destiny, or it is the fate which made him kill his father as well as marry his mother. That was not a social imposition on him, but something very much divine, or that was his fate, that was his destiny. So he was fighting against that. Unfortunately, he failed. No one can, according to the Greek classical things, we cannot fight against the fate and the destiny. So it happens like that. But in Shakespearean tragedy, we can say it is like more realistic. Okay, rather than fighting against the destiny, this is like fighting against the social issues and the social aspects of the social order. Then concerned with domestic and family relationship, of course, that rather than divine or heavenly things or hellish things, you can see his plays are concerned with domestic and family relationships. Like it presents a vast range of intense emotions, issues, and suited to the mature years of a human life. You can see such things like in a person's life, what can be the major problem? See, here you can see Hamlet is search for meaning in life's dilemmas. Hamlet is searching, full and full of philosophical reflections are there in Hamlet. And he is, what is life? What is the meaning of life? Why this kind of a dilemma? Why it is happening to me? So many such things. And in the case of Othello, it is sexual jealousy. He is suspicious of his wife, and he got manipulated by someone, and he is like, the sexual jealousy is there. It can happen with anyone, it can happen with a common man. Okay, so the issues happening in a person's life is actually portrayed to be the tragic flaws in the case of Shakespearean tragedies. Then King Lear, aging, of course, old age, how old age makes a person ignorant or immature to take decisions. That is what King Lear is all about. Okay, generational conflicts, how the next generation is, treating the older ones and all those things. And Macbeth, ambition and power. Definitely, it can happen among the people. So it presents a vast range of intense emotions and issues suited for the mature years of human life. And so these are the basic features that we can see in the works of Shakespeare, that too in the great tragedies of Shakespeare. And let us just discuss the plays in general. Actually, for the other plays, I have just given the gist of the content, the story. We have discussed other factors, other features. And for these four plays, I'm sure that you are familiar with the content of these four plays, but we will just discuss in a glance. Okay, this is like from the late 18th century. This play has been regarded as the greatest in the Shakespearean canon, Hamlet. Okay, the first great tragedy of Shakespeare, which was in 1601. The years, if possible, you can remember the years. Sometimes it may be helpful. And from the late 18th century onwards, because I told you, still even in this 21st century, people are doing researches on, you know, Shakespeare's works. So after the 16th century, soon after Shakespeare's death, even during Shakespeare's time, people were critiquing, people were analyzing the works of Shakespeare in different contexts. You can see so many contexts. I'll give you a gist of the different critiques over different periods. And then, so this is Hamlet is considered to be the greatest in Shakespeare's canon. Then form is that of Senecan revenge tragedy. We have discussed what a Senecan revenge tragedy is and what are the features of Senecan revenge tragedy. A ghost will be there, some, a relative, kinsmen have to take revenge, and this drama within the drama will be there. So all these things, I hope it is there in the previous classes. So the Hamlet is exclusively in the form of that of a Senecan revenge tragedy. Then the whole plot turns upon the character of the protagonist, okay, and his irresolution. It's full of Hamlet is like full of, you can see like Hamlet is everything is put on Hamlet, how Hamlet is seeing different things and how he is pursuing this revenge for his father and the dilemma he is undergoing. So all these kinds of things. And this is of course Shakespeare's longest play. You can keep in your mind which is the longest play of Shakespeare. That is Hamlet. Okay. And the play reflects the skeptical humanism of the late Renaissance. We know that during Renaissance period, what is the importance of Renaissance period, how the Renaissance period happened, what is Renaissance humanism, all these things we have discussed. And this, people were still skeptical because it is something, a drastic change from the olden days to the Renaissance period. So people were slightly confused, and that kind of a skepticism, okay, as that's skeptical humanism of the late Renaissance period, that was reflecting in Hamlet. In many of his soliloquies, in many of his speeches, we can see this kind of a skepticism. Okay, and the sources. These are the sources for Hamlet. Actually, it will be really good that if you could remember. It is really difficult to remember the sources of these plays, but still, just try to remember the sources. This is our Hamlet. Her Hamlet is a work which was published in 1588. Okay, not so older. This is apparently derived from Belforest's collection, Histories Tragics. Okay, and this is the this is Tragics. 1580. This is a collection, and in this collection, there is a story called Ur Hamlet, and this is one of the sources for Hamlet. And second one again, Belforest's story is retold from Saxo Grammaticus Danish history. Actually, this particular story, this is itself is a retelling, and the source for this particular work is Saxo Grammaticus Danish history, which came in 1540. So this is the immediate source, and this is the older source. So these are the sources of Hamlet. And then coming to, yeah.
Ma'am, so this cannot be considered as original work of Shakespeare.
No,
Like
all the
it is
works
not.
are actually most of the, not only Shakespeare, all the works of Shakespeare or other writers, everyone is having sources like that. Okay, actually, we have discussed this kind of things in many of our previous classes. It's not all like genuine, the story invented by Shakespeare. We cannot say that. Most of his work, almost all, for all his work, we are telling the sources. They have taken the gist or the particular story from someone, and they maintained and they developed into a new version. And that is what called their play, Hamlet, Macbeth, all these have sources. It is not the original invention of Shakespeare. No, of course. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's not authentic
No, we
of
cannot say it
Shakespeare's.
is not authentic. Actually, the story, the source, still we have some movies with inspiration or some
Mm.
connections to other adaptations and things like that. No, actually, these are the earlier version. Actually, in 15th and 16th century, what the most of the writers wrote, they got the roots from the medieval, because literature was simply developing during that time. And there are so many other reasons for writing the works also, dramas also. This is exclusively for commercial purpose. For the part of the writers, this is for commercial purpose, because they are writing it, they are giving it, and they are getting the money for that. Okay, this is not something the literature that we have just now, but during the earlier days, the purpose itself was different. That is one of the reasons. And so it's, and next thing is like it is for the entertainment for the aristocracy, that is the queen and the people, as well as to the layman. Okay, so to make them entertain, something needs to be there, so they are getting the gist from somewhere and they are putting it in order. And you know, in King Lear and all, one plot is taken from one source, and the other plot, the Gloucester plot, is taken from another source, then again another. So they are combining it, so their artistic work is also there, and the writing is of course exclusively there, like the content and all. But of course, the story, the content definitely is from some other sources. King Lear alone, like exclusively from some other sources. There's exact story is like that, and Shakespeare is just getting that story and he's reworking on it, and in the form of a drama. Okay, because drama is something that was emerging during that time. It should not be, it's not necessary, these two works, the sources are not in the form of dramas, and he's putting it in the form of dramas and presenting it in a different approach, different way. That's it. But unfortunately, these works are not popular, but Shakespeare's works are popular, and that's why we now identify Hamlet, Macbeth, and everything. Actually, Hamlet is a work written by Shakespeare only, but it has its roots in some, older versions. So this is not, as you said, we cannot say the story is not exactly authentic. The authority or the authenticity of the story is, we cannot give that to Shakespeare. But Hamlet as a drama, that is what we are reading today, is of course a product of Shakespeare. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So the plot, of course, you may be familiar with the plot, but still, I'll just give you a gist of the plot. That is King Hamlet of Denmark. Okay, actually the father of Hamlet is also King Hamlet, and our hero is Prince Hamlet. And King Hamlet is he was ruling Denmark, and he died. All of a sudden, he died. And his brother Claudius. Okay, these names you should be familiar with, especially the great tragedies and the great characters that you should be familiar with. And his brother Claudius has he ascended the throne, and also he married uh, mm, mm, uh, King Hamlet's wife, that is his brother's wife, that is Gertrude. Then Denmark is actually threatened by, at the same time, Denmark was actually threatened by the Norwegian invasion. Norway, the neighboring country, Norway is having some kind of, a rivalry with Denmark, and Norwegian invasion is actually expected during this time. And Fortinbras is the king or the prince of Norway. Actually, Fortinbras is taking revenge for his father's death. There was a war between this Norway and Denmark, and Fortinbras' father was killed in that war. Now Fortinbras, the king of Norway, he wants to take revenge on us. So that kind of an impending war is also there. And so now the Prince Hamlet, who was studying in Wittenberg University, he is now back to Denmark, and he is very confused. He is very sad. Actually, the main sadness, of course, he lost his father. He is extremely sad for that. But the main problem that disturbed him is like the hasty marriage of his mother, that too with his uncle. He couldn't accept it because it has been only some days that his father died, and how his mother can get married so soon. That is what something haunted Hamlet. And he actually informed by one of his friends, that is Horatio, that his father's ghost, it's not actually one ghost, ghost appearance is there, and it resembles King Hamlet. So this is something Horatio informed Hamlet. So Hamlet is also there to see the ghost appearance. It comes only at night. Yeah, it comes only at night. So Hamlet is actually there, and this ghost figure actually does not speak with others, but when the ghost figure saw Hamlet, he communicated, and what he informed is like, I was not dead, but I was murdered by Claudius, that is your uncle, and he poured some poison to my ear when I was sleeping in the garden area. So you should take revenge. You, as my son, should take revenge for this. This is what the information given by the ghost. Okay. And Hamlet swears revenge, and he needs to. But though Hamlet promises his father that, okay, I will take revenge, but he was still confused. How can I believe such a ghost figure? This is what the confusion that haunted Hamlet. So he needs some evidences. The first of all, of course, you know that to be or not to be, Hamlet was procrastinating his, revenge. So at first, it was exclusively, there is a logical reason, because he needs evidence. That is something very logical. But after a point, after getting the evidence, why Hamlet procrastinated the revenge? That is what something, the philosophical question that raises in the case of Hamlet. And Hamlet actually persuades the company of a troupe of actors. We have discussed, like during that time, this acting troops were there who were going place to place and doing this, dramas. So Hamlet persuades a company of actors, and they are planning for a drama to be performed at the court. That is Murder of Gonzago. That is the play within the play of Hamlet, and this name is something very important. You should remember that, the Murder of Gonzago. And this scene, the play scene is also known as the mouse trap scene, because this is a mouse trap to catch the mouse, to confirm whether Claudius is really guilty or not. Okay. And then yeah, so in between some Ophelia, in between Ophelia is there. Ophelia is in, actually still we don't know what is exactly the relation between, or what was exactly in Hamlet's mind towards Ophelia. They were having a kind of romantic connection, but they were not like proclaimed lovers or something like that in other works. But still he started, so for which, to find out whether Claudius is the culprit or not, Hamlet had to feign madness. Okay, so he was pretending as if he's mad. He's out of his consciousness, and he's mad. He's blabbering something, and something without connections and all those things. So it was in that way it goes, and he was like very much rude towards Ophelia. So Polonius is Ophelia's father. Polonius was helping Claudius. So Claudius is always suspicious, because Claudius is afraid of Hamlet, because he has done something, some very huge mistake. So he is always like, why Hamlet is behaving so strange? So he wanted to confirm that. So Polonius is like, okay, this is like he is having some kind of he's love sick. That is what Polonius says. Okay, he's love sick because Ophelia is not at all that responding towards his romantic advances, and that's why he's like that. Then they are doing some kind of experiments to ensure whether he is having this love sickness or not, and he is like very rude to Ophelia. So they understand that, okay, this is not the problem with this romance or love or something like that. This is something else. So Claude, at one side, Hamlet is very eager to know whether Claudius has done the mistake, and at the same time, on the other side, Claudius is also very much eager to know whether Hamlet knows something, or is everything fine, or something like that. So in that at that time, they are conducting this play. That is Murder of Gonzago, and Hamlet is sitting opposite to Claudius and Gertrude to watch their facial changes, okay, facial expressions on seeing this. Actually, this is a play which was something told by the ghost. The king is like laying on a bench in the garden, and one person, the brother, is coming and pouring some poison on the ear, and then the person dies. So this is the content of this play, Murder of Gonzago. So when this play is enacted, Hamlet is closely watching the expressions of Claudius, and Claudius all of a sudden got shocked on seeing this, because this is what he has done. So he becomes restless. He stands up and he leaves the place. Okay. So here Hamlet is very clear that, okay, what my father, what the ghost figure told us exactly correct. This person is the culprit. He is understanding that the scene is called the mousetrap scene. And Claudius also then understood that, okay, Hamlet knows something. I don't know how, but Hamlet knows everything. So Claudius orders Hamlet to go to England with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. These are two friends of Hamlet, okay, who were there in Wittenberg University with Hamlet. So they were invited by Claudius to know what is happening in Hamlet's mind, but Hamlet never opened up anything to them. But with this mousetrap scene, both Hamlet as well as Claudius understood each other. And then Claudius is asking Hamlet to go to England, okay, to see the England king. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are accompanying Hamlet. And they were on the way to England, and there was a letter with Hamlet. Actually, in that letter, what was written is like, Hamlet should be hanged to death. Okay, so soon after receiving this letter, the English king will be killing Hamlet. This is what the plan of Claudius. And both Rosencrantz and Guildenstern know this, and what their responsibility is to, they should not make Hamlet escape from this. Okay, so on the way, Hamlet happens to see this, and he understood the conspiracy. And with the help of some pirates, actually, he is escaping, and he is actually replacing the letter with another letter that these two people, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, these two people are to be hanged to death. Okay, and he has this a ring of royal symbol, and with that symbol he is putting a seal on that, so the authenticity is also there, and the letter is like replaced, and it was given with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. After that, we don't know what happens to them. And there is a 20th century play, I don't exactly remember who wrote that play at right this moment, but Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. That is a modernist play. Okay, and the inspiration is from, of course, Hamlet. That's a totally different play, modernist version of this particular idea, but Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. This is the title of that play. So after this, we don't know what happened to them, but Hamlet is just escaping, and he comes back to Denmark with the help of some pirates. In between, Ophelia, in between, so many things happening. After this, Hamlet is like, he encounters Gertrude, because he's so much of very much irritated with his mother's nature. He had an obsession towards his mother, and this mother did this to him. That is what something he cannot accept. So he is confronting Gertrude in the chamber, and during that time, Polonius, the father of Laertes and Ophelia, he was actually hiding behind the curtain, and he was, eavesdropping their conversation. This Hamlet's and his mother's conversation. So Hamlet understood that someone is there, so he is stabbing without knowing that it is Polonius. Only after the stab, he identified that it is Polonius, but Polonius dies at that moment itself. So Ophelia is like full of confusion, and she becomes mad. Okay, because Hamlet is very rude to her. Polonius died. Laertes is not there. Laertes has gone to, that is her brother. He has gone to Paris. So she loses her, sense, and she becomes mad, and she'll be like here and there. She's singing some songs, and finally she drowns to death. She commits suicide. And so now Laertes is back to avenge his father's death. Polonius is killed by Hamlet. So he wants to avenge or take revenge on the death of his father as well as his sister, because people convinced him that it is because of Hamlet that she died, Ophelia died. So they are back, and Claudius is offering all the helps to Laertes. Okay, you ask for a duel. We have seen what a duel is. People can challenge others, and they can have a confrontation with each other, and whoever wins, that person wins. It's like that. So he's asking for Hamlet for a duel. He's challenging Hamlet for a duel. So this grave digger scene and all those things are there. That is where like Ophelia's funeral is happening. And at that time we can understand that Hamlet was having some kind of affections and attractions toward Ophelia, but he was never exposing it in the course of the play. We have some notions like earlier they had that kind of a relationship or that kind of attractions or something like that, but during the play he's like totally rude to Ophelia. And then these people, Hamlet and Laertes, fight with each other, and what happens finally? This Claudius has given a poisoned sword to Laertes. Okay, and Laertes wounded Hamlet. There is a wound with him, and when this sword is back after some time, this sword comes at Hamlet's hand, and he is killing Claudius, as well as Laertes is also fatally wounded. And Claudius, to ensure the death of Hamlet, has put some wine there, wine or juice there, which is also poisoned. Okay, Gertrude, without her knowledge, is drinking this wine, and she too dies. So everyone dies at the end, but at the end, Laertes is asking for forgiveness to Hamlet, and he understands that okay, Hamlet was doing something against his father's murderer. So everything happens like that, but at the end, all these people die. So during that time, you can see the Norwegian king Fortinbras is on the way, and he is now here. Everyone is dead, and Fortinbras is now taking over the rule of Denmark. That's how the play ends. So this is what the I know it was slight detailed. I have to make it short. Actually, Hamlet is one of my favorites also, that's why. So this is how Hamlet goes. Actually, this meeting will be ending very soon. So Shakti knows. Mrinalini, you can. Okay. Okay, fine. So we can continue now. So that is all about the plot of Hamlet. And then now, the character of Hamlet, a very complicated character. Okay, that is what people usually, the critiques usually seek about Hamlet. Actually, he's having a very confused perception. that comes with emotional trauma. He's confused. This emotional trauma is there with him. So it's a combination of all these things. So he is totally like out of his control. Once he identified that okay, Claudius is the person, still he finds it. Actually, what he needs is like eternal damnation. He doesn't want just to kill Claudius, but Claudius should have this eternal damnation. That's why when he was on the way to his mother's chamber, he is actually seeing Claudius, and he is actually taking out his sword to kill Claudius. But at the same time, he's noticing that okay, Claudius is praying. So during when a person is praying, at that time, if we kill that person will directly go to heaven. Okay, that is what something the belief of people during that time. So Hamlet is confused, and he needs this emotional trauma is also there, intense emotional trauma. So he is again confused. No, I should not kill Claudius at this time. Let it be, let it be. Likewise, to be or not to be, to be or not to be, he is full of confusion. Okay, and he sees his father as an ideal man and a great king. Yeah. Aishwarya, yeah, welcome. Please mute your mic and you know actually we have half of at the half of the class. Anyway, this is being recorded. You will get the link. Okay. Yeah. So he sees his father as an ideal man and a great king. So he's confused in two ways. Like, of course, Claudius has killed his father. Of course, his uncle killed his brother, uncle's brother. And then this person has killed the king of the country. Okay, so he was a great king. Then why he killed him? So this kind of confusions actually made so much of conflicts in Hamlet's mind. And of course, I told you he was offended by his mother's hasty marriage, that too an incestuous marriage. That because she just married her husband's. Uh, okay. Yeah, and also one more thing, I'm not that good at Tamil, but still, if you need sometime, if you need clarifications in like bilingually, you can ask me. I'll try my level best to put into Tamil also at some times. Because if it is Malayalam, I can switch over very easily, but I'm not that confident. That's why it's like this. But of course, I told you, no, you can definitely give me suggestions like should I reduce my speed or should I make it bilingual or something like that. If it is okay to follow, then we will go in this way. But if you need some kind of changes or something like that, you can ask me that also. Okay, because we are not having a face-to-face conversation, so I don't know how you feel. Are you following all this? Shakti almost I am familiar with because we have been having the classes together for some sessions. So I know that she is like following, and for the other students also, like if you are planning to continue with, please to tell me what are your suggestions are. We can make some changes accordingly. Then definitely our Hamlet is experiencing mental depression because so many critics have told that of course Hamlet is saying like I'm pretending madness, but at some points the audience, the people, everyone is getting confused like whether Hamlet is originally mad or not. Is he really mad, or is he just pretending madness? We are getting that kind of a confusion. So he experiences as a person, as an individual, he is experiencing heavy mental depression, and he longs for death but rejects suicide. In one of his solilokis, he is saying like, oh, somehow I want to die. I don't want to live in this kind of a world, whether brother is killing brother, and the wife of the person is killing marrying the murderer. So so many things are happening. So what kind of a world is this? I don't want to. But at the same time, in the next line, he is saying like, no, I'll never ever commit suicide. suicide is not something favorable for an individual, so something like that. So it's full of confusions, callings, this kind of problems, conflicts. Disgust with life and sex. The sexual jealousy is also there with Hamlet also, because you can see Hamlet is very much obsessed with his mother, and he is actually, rather than his father's death, he is actually obsessed with or worried about the hasty marriage of the mother. That is why in the 20th century, Freud made an analysis, Oedipus complex. When he was explaining Oedipus complex, he made Hamlet as an example. Okay, Hamlet has heavy obsession towards his mother, and that's why he is this much confused, this much emotionally down, and this much worried. And he is having full of disgust with life and sex. He is making this kind of opinions towards Ophelia. Actually, he cannot express it directly to his mother. That's why he is expressing all these kinds of frustrations to Ophelia, and he is hurting them. The very prominent, again, the power has gone, that's why. Okay. Because frailty, thy name is woman. That is what something very popular in Hamlet's courts, among Hamlet's courts. And so he says, like, women is equal to woman can be synonymously identified with frailty. Women are not at all loyal, they deceive or they cheat or something like that. That's why frailty, thy name is woman. That is what he said. Then he virtually ignores, see, this is the point, he virtually ignores the political consequences of his father's murder and focuses only on the sexual implications. This is what something very important, because it is the king of Denmark who died. Okay, king of Denmark is died, and what can be the political complications? Because an impending war is there. Norway, Fortinbras, the king of Norway, is planning to attack Denmark. So many problems are there. So what can be done? How it affects the political context or the social context of Denmark? Hamlet is not at all worried about this kind of a thing, but he is like full of this kind of sexual implications, that his mother deceived his father, and his mother had a hasty marriage, and Claudius killed his father to get both the kingdom as well as his wife, that is get ruled. So this kind of thoughts are there in the mind of Hamlet, rather than the people of Denmark, rather than the political context of Denmark. That is something very important, and that's why Freud connects Hamlet to the Oedipal complex, and then transfers his mother's guilt to Ophelia. I told you, he cannot express all these things to his mother, and that's why he transfers. If we have some, just imagine you are you very much irritated with the professor, or someone who teaches you, or someone on a higher strata. Definitely, you cannot express, you cannot show your irritations as well as your frustrations to that person. So what will you do? You will impose it on, or you will show it on someone who is inferior to you, maybe your sister, maybe your friend, or sometimes maybe your mother, or someone who is comfortable to you. So this is what something happens for every person. So that is what happened with Hamlet also. He transfers his mother's guilt to Ophelia, and of course he procrastinates revenge for apparently philosophical reasons. That is the thing. In the first few parts, we can say, like, okay, he was searching for evidences. He wanted a clarification. That is something fine. Okay, we can understand. But once it is confirmed that it is Claudius who killed his father, even then you can see lots and lots of procrastinations, the delaying, the process of delaying from the part of Hamlet, and that too exclusively for philosophical and religious reasons. I told you one of the reasons, like, okay, if I kill him at this moment, he will go to heaven. No, it should not happen. I should not kill him now. These kind of reasons are there. If a person is really vengeance towards that person in the real sense, then whatever he is doing, or from the very next moment itself, this person will be doing something against that person. But in the case of Hamlet, it was not like that. So that's why we usually call Hamlet to be a very complicated character. Then, again. So again, it continues. Again, he demands eternal damnation for the king, not merely murderous revenge. I told you that's why he didn't kill him while he was praying, while Claudius was praying. Eternal damnation. Even after his death, he should not go to heaven. He should go to hell for sure. And he should, suffer there also. That eternal damnation is what expected by Hamlet for Claudius, and he kills Polonius in fury, which leads to Ophelia's insanity and subsequent death. Of course, that is actually he is not the direct reason, but definitely he is the indirect reason for our Ophelia's death. Then Hamlet is exiled and escapes death in England. I told you while I was explaining the plot. Then in the final act, he's a changed man. That is what something we can see. How he is changed, like see, no longer hesitant. He's no longer hesitant. He doesn't have that kind of a confusion, okay, where to be or not to be. That kind of a confusion is not there with Hamlet now. Then he realizes his human feelings and his capacity for evil. Okay, that is something realized by Hamlet, and he calmly accepts his destiny. This is what, when he was dying, he's not at all confused. He was not at all, oh, I am going to die. What will be my future? Nothing like that. He's calmly accepting. Okay, this is what my destiny is. I'm going to do things like this. Likewise, you can see a changed nature in Hamlet's behavior. And now the theme. Before that, just give me a moment. Okay, so let us just go through the themes of Hamlet. Actually, you can see the ambiguous treatment of the psychological tensions pertaining to death and sex. Very ambiguous. What is the meaning of ambiguity? Confused. Okay, confused treatment of the psychological tension. Hamlet is having so many. Everyone in the play is having so many psychological tensions, and it is treated in a very ambiguous way, especially pertaining to death and sex. Then humanity as essentially flawed. It's full of flaw. It's full of mistakes. There are so many problems. No human being is perfect. Everyone is having their own problems. Hamlet is the hero of the play, but still, he is not that kind of a heroic figure. He too has confusions. He too has frustrations. He too has obsessions with something. He is also rude to people. So he is not a very kind of the perfect man or perfect hero or something like that. So thematic problems are there in the play for sure. The thematic problems are like Hamlet's madness is real or feigned. We don't know. Likewise, what is the nature of Hamlet's relationship with Ophelia? It is still a debatable topic whether he is in love with the girl. If he is really in love with the girl, then why he behaved in that way or things like that. Then why does Hamlet procrastinate revenge? Still, we don't know that kind of things. Okay, those are the, actually this is repeating, this point is repeating. This is the thematic problems in the play: the relationship with Ophelia, why he was procrastinating, and Hamlet's madness. Is that really pretended, or was that really, a real madness or something like that? We can't find these answers from Hamlet. It is up to the readers, actually. Applying reader response theory, maybe we can connect it. These are some major critiques on Hamlet. You can just remember this in course of time, how people responded to the particular play Hamlet. S.T. Coleridge is the first person. He is considered to be the first among the modern critics who made some analysis on Hamlet or Shakespeare's plays. So S.T. Coleridge considered Hamlet to be an intellectual. An intellectual who thinks too much. Actually, that is what something Shakespeare was also giving an idea of Hamlet, because he was studying in Wittenberg University, and this was the period of Renaissance and humanism. And Hamlet, you can see in the play, Hamlet will be with a book, a dictionary, kind of a big book, and he'll be reading the lines of the books, and he's a melancholic hero in that way. He is thinking too much, he is reading too much, and he has lots and lots of knowledge, and that's why such people are quite confused, right? So Samuel Taylor Coleridge also considered Hamlet to be such an intellectual figure who thinks too much, and that's why he's having this kind of complications. And A.C. Bradley, I have mentioned Bradley's names many times before in our sessions. Bradley is one of the prominent critics, Shakespearean critic, and he actually, there is a book by Bradley in which he makes analysis of exclusively the tragedies, the four tragedies. Only the four tragedies are put into consideration, and he was analyzing each and every aspects of all these four plays. A.C. Bradley explained Hamlet's delay as the result of a deep melancholy which grew out of his disappointment in his mother. Actually, Sigmund Freud's connection was an extension of what Bradley had. Disappointment in his mother's nature. That's why he became melancholic, and that's why he became confused. That's why he was this much distracted. Otherwise, if his mother hadn't married this particular person, then definitely Hamlet would have been more active. Hamlet would have been like more vengeance, and he could have taken the revenge. So many studies are there based on this. And in one of the studies, people say, like, if he kills Claudius, his mother will be sad. So Hamlet doesn't want his mother to be sad. That can be one of the reasons why he was procrastinating the revenge on Claudius without any reason. So things like that, it goes in many, many, many ways. So many people have written, and they all written in different ways. And T.S. Eliot is actually calls Hamlet. Till then, Hamlet was like, everyone praised Hamlet in different ways. But T.S. Eliot was saying, like, this is an artistic failure. Okay, he calls Hamlet. So this can also be expected in some entrance examinations or something like that. Which of the Shakespearean plays is identified to be an artistic failure by T.S. Eliot? Okay, you may be like, you can expect questions like that. That is, of course, Hamlet. And T.S. Eliot is the person who said like that Hamlet is an artistic failure. And why he told Hamlet to be an artistic failure? Because it lacks an objective correlative. Objective correlative is also a term introduced by T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot as a critic. That means, if we want to convey some particular emotions, then all the other things, the objects as well as the episodes, the next episodes, and the connecting people, everyone should reflect the same. Everything should reflect the emotions here. But here in the case of Hamlet, only Hamlet was feeling all these things. So this objective correlative was missing. If it is a good tragedy, if it is a good work of art, this objective correlative should be there. And in Hamlet, this objective correlative is not there, and that's why it is considered to be an artistic failure. Why T.S. Eliot called Hamlet to be an artistic failure? If such a question comes, then you can say, like, according to T.S. Eliot, Hamlet was lacking objective correlative. That's why he calls Hamlet to be an artistic failure. And he is even comparing Mona Lisa, the painting, right? Mona Lisa and Hamlet is actually compared by T.S. Eliot. And he was saying, like, Hamlet is the Mona Lisa of literature. That is what he said. And then comes Sigmund Freud. I told you, Sigmund Freud was explaining this procrastination connecting to Oedipal complex, endorsed by Ernest James. This Oedipal complex is the view endorsed by Ernest Jones, and Sigmund Freud was giving an explanation to that. Actually, what the thing is like, Oedipal complex, are you familiar with the Oedipal complex and Electra complex?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. So Oedipal complex is something connected to the Oedipus Rex, the Greek tragedy I told you, in the beginning. Actually, in the Greek tragedy, Mrinalini, if you listen to the previous audios, you can get the story of Oedipus Rex, the play. Oedipus Rex is actually a famous play written by Sophocles, and you know, Oedipus Rex. In Oedipus Rex, Oedipus is actually born to a parents, and so soon after that, an oracle is there. Like this person, this kid will kill the father and marry the mother. So the parents got frightened. They are the king. They were like a king and a queen. So they asked one of the persons to kill the kid. This person doesn't felt like, he did not feel like killing the kid, and he just abandoned the kid. So the kid is actually taken over by another king and queen of a neighboring place, and they actually brought him up. But after some time, Oedipus came to know that, okay, this is what something about my birth secret. I'm not the son of this particular parents. Okay, I am the son of Lais and Jocasta. He's identifying no, he's not identifying the parents, but he identifies that the present parents are not his parents. So he's like very desperate, and he came to know about this oracle also. Like, I will be killing my father and I'll be marrying my mother. So he's like very confused. No, he's not identifying whether he is this is the adopted parents, but he's identifying about this oracle that he'll be killing his father and marrying his mother. So he doesn't want to stay there. He doesn't want to disturb his parents. So he is just leaving that place. He's very much devastated, very much desperate. So he's leaving the place. After some time, he's in another place, and there, on his way, another person was coming in a chariot, and they had a conflict. And in a sudden fury, this Oedipus is killing that person. Unfortunately, that was the original father, Laius, original father of Oedipus. But Oedipus doesn't know that. The father doesn't know that. Okay, that's why I said in the beginning that it's all Greek classics are full of this destiny. And then he goes, so he identifies that, okay, recently someone has killed the king. He doesn't know, even then he doesn't know it is him who killed the king. So they don't have son, so no one to take up the responsibility of the country. So what the thing is like, a person will be asking some riddles, and those who answer the riddle can be the next king. And this person answers the question, and he becomes the king. Oedipus becomes the king of that place. And of course, the widowed queen is there. So that was usually the custom. If the if the king dies, those who come as the next king should marry the widowed queen. So now here he has to marry Jocasta, without knowing that Jocasta is his biological mother. So he is marrying Jocasta, and they are having 2 to 3 children. Okay, and after some time, you can see the country is full of drought. There is not even a single drop of water. It's full of drought and famine. So they were like, what is the reason for this? So at that time only, it is revealed that in this place, the king is killed by his son, as well as the mother is married again by her son. So this was a shock for both Oedipus and Jocasta. So Jocasta all of a sudden runs into the room and she hangs herself because she cannot accept the reality that she has married her son, and she got even children with her son. so she couldn't accept the reality. And Oedipus was also like, he couldn't do that, and he saw his mother hanged like that, and he couldn't tolerate anything. He killed his father, and he killed married his mother, and now she is like hanged. Oh my god, what kind of a destiny is this? And then sorry, still that Hamlet effect is there on me. Still Oedipus, actually he plucks his eyes out because he cannot see this anymore, and he is wandering here and there, as if a beggar. So it goes like that, the play goes like that. Okay, so Oedipal complex is something, this is actually something Oedipus did without his knowledge, but this is actually taken as an example. Those people, those male sons who are obsessed with their mother, okay, that connection is actually termed as Oedipal complex by Sigmund Freud. Actually, there are lots and lots of implications for this. If you see Oedipal complex in detail, you can see so many layers and layers. Usually, the psychologists say that like the sons will be very much connected to their mothers, and they see their fathers as someone who come there to separate the mother from the son. So they are having some kind of a rivalry towards the father. But after a point of time, after a period or an age like 4 or 5 years or something like that, when the kid identifies and understands that, okay, this is my mother and this is my father and something like that, when he comes to know the social order and everything, this gradually fades. Okay, and accepting the reality, that kind of a concept is there. But for some people, this psychological impact is there. They are very much, still very much obsessed with the mother, and they will not show it openly, but inside the layers of their brains will be there. So something that they do is actually connected to this thing. D.H. Lawrence, the 20th century writer, and his popular work Sons and Lovers is actually something read with this Oedipal complex thing. Actually, that has autobiographical elements also. D.H. Lawrence's autobiographical elements also there in Sons and Lovers, and this particular work is how the mother is connected to the sons and how the sons are connected to the mother. So this kind of a complex, and the daughters who are obsessed with the father figure, that is also possible, and that is known as Electra complex. Okay, that is something called Electra complex. So this is what Oedipal complex and Electra complex. So Sigmund Freud is connecting the procrastination of Hamlet with this Oedipal complex, because Hamlet is a person who is having this kind of an Oedipal obsession towards his mother, and that's why he is procrastinating. That's why he is very much obsessed and frustrated with this kind of an activity done by his mother, and that's why he is imposing all these kinds of frustration on another woman. That's why he is delaying the vengeful activity on Claudius, because anyway his mother may be like unhappy if Claudius dies so soon. So many such implications. That is what in the 20th century Sigmund Freud gave that kind of a reflection to Hamlet and his procrastination. The new historicists. I can't explain all who are new historicists. Actually, cultural materialism and new historicism are two concepts which connects with the historiography. Like, I'll tell you in a nutshell, they are identifying a work with the context of the particular period, the history of that particular period. If something happens in the 16th century, what is the cultural, social, economical structure of that Elizabethan period or 16th century, and connecting to that, they read the work. That is what new historicists do in a nutshell. And the new historicists, they read Hamlet in the context of Elizabethan society and politics. These are the various readings or the various opinions on Hamlet, came on Hamlet. Okay. So I think it's only just 5 minutes left for today's session. So I think we can start Othello in the next class. So we have done only Hamlet today. It was too, I think the class was too slow. Tomorrow onwards, we can make it slightly faster. And but the thing is, like, usually it's one of my habits that I sometimes, lag the class in this way. Even if it is that, even if we extend the classes for a while, don't worry, I'll be finishing the whole his British history syllabus. Okay, even if it extends for like, actually our plan is for 3 months. But if it is like 4 months or 5 months, we can definitely finish it. If you are willing, we can definitely finish it. Otherwise, you can let me know. I'll make it more fast. Like this is like when I'm explaining, I want to explain the nook and corner in detail, especially when it comes to the important works like this. But definitely after this, we can make it really faster. So I think with that, we can wind up. And the philosophical reflections in the play is also identified by many people like Schlegel, then, Coleridge and all these people. They like, this is a tragedy of thought reflection. The people said in that way, the tragedy of thought reflection. The tragedies after Hamlet and Julius Caesar can be called tragedies of passion. This is like tragedies of thought and reflections. It's full of like thoughts, reflections, philosophical reflections, and all those things. And after this, you can see it's full of passion, full of energy, full of some emotional intensities. So things like that. So there are some differences in the case of the tragedies by Shakespeare. Then A.C. Bradley actually calls Hamlet as a tragedy of moral idealism. Okay, he calls in that way also. Uh, First of all, I told you that A.C. Bradley says, like, of course, the procrastination as well as the Hamlet's nature is due to the disappointment in his mother. And he also says, like, this is a tragedy of moral idealism. Like, how can we be morally ideal, and the concept of moral idealism? And is it necessary to be like that? What is the, nuances behind the moral idealism? So he was connecting in that way also. So that is what something about Hamlet, and we have seen the tragedies of Shakespeare, the features of tragedies and Hamlet. And tomorrow definitely we'll be finishing all the other three tragedies of Shakespeare. Actually, why Hamlet is taking this much of time is, of course, for sure. I told you this is the longest play of Shakespeare, and this is the most analyzed play of Shakespeare. Rather than Macbeth, Othello, and Hamlet, King Lear, Hamlet is the play which was discussed by people in huge quantity, we can say. So that is also one of the reasons. So if we say we can speak more and more on Hamlet, like in the 18th and 19th century, you can see like the feminist aspects of, like, Ophelia was given. Actually, Hamlet is a play which has 5 acts, encompassing 20 scenes. Okay, so we can say almost 5 scenes average. Like in some acts, it's just 3 scenes. In some acts, it's 7 scenes. But in total, you can see 20 scenes and 5 acts. That is what Hamlet is having. But this Ophelia, this character Ophelia, appears in only just 5 scenes. In total, among all these 20 scenes, she is just appearing in just 5 scenes. But still, people used to say during that time Ophelia was considered a minor character, a mere heroine, a namesake heroine. But after that, there are people like Elaine Showalter, and other feminist critics who considered Ophelia to be, and they made detailed analysis of Ophelia. And in course of time, how in theatrical performances, how Ophelia's appearance, how Ophelia's dialogues, everything changed. So this kind of differences in the character is also discussed. So the feminist context is also applicable in the case of Hamlet. So many changes. And if you go through the criticisms on Hamlet or the analysis on Hamlet, it is n number, numerous. You can't even, read everything. That is something, the speciality of Hamlet. So we'll be discussing rest of the tragedies in tomorrow's sessions. Thank you so much. And if you have, as I already mentioned, if you have some suggestions or something like that, you can let me know. Okay. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.